Hello everybody, this is Mr. Yen, and I'm going to be guiding you through the instructional video for lesson 7.4. For this video, you're going to need a couple things. The first thing that you need is a worksheet, the 7.4a Congruent Triangles worksheet. This you can get for my class. It's posted on Google Classroom. For other classes, just listen to what your teacher said. And once you have this worksheet, there's 3 different ways that you can fill it out. You can print it out like I've done here and then write down your answers on this, or you can fill it out electronically and share it that way. Or if you write down your answers on a separate piece of paper, and as long as you've clearly labeled the problem numbers, that's fine too. Once you have the worksheet, then you want to go to this website here, this davidpetro.org. And once you do that, you will see this screen here. Okay, so this is the tool that you're going to use. And let's look at page 1. In page 1, we have triangle ABC right here. And each of the sides is marked with a certain color. Each of the angles is marked with a different color as well. Here are 5 triangles. Each of these 5 triangles has 1 or 2 parts that match, that are congruent to the parts in triangle ABC. So for example, in triangle ENO, this red side is congruent to the red side in triangle ABC, this side AB. And what you can do with this tool is you can move the triangles around by either clicking a side like that, or by clicking one of the points. And it will adjust the triangle in any possible way while keeping the constraints of this red side here. You can rotate triangles by using the blue points here. And what you want to do is play around with the different points and the different sides to see which of these triangles, no matter how you transform it, will always be congruent to triangle ABC. And that's what you'll use to answer page 1. So play around, and then you can answer page 1. Now let's look at page 2. On page 2, you have triangle ABC again. And now each of these triangles have 3 parts that are congruent to triangle A, B, and C. They can be sides or they can be angles, but 3 parts for each one. And what you want to do is move the triangles around and see which ones are always going to be congruent to ABC and which ones are not necessarily congruent to ABC. I'll show you 2 examples. Let's look at this triangle right here, DTL. So first, to test if it's congruent, I can do a translation. So I'm going to translate it so that point D lines up with point A. And then I want these 2 red sides to line up. So I'm going to use this blue point to rotate the triangle. And now the 2 red sides are lined up, but I can easily see that these 2 triangles are definitely not congruent. So I'm going to take this triangle, I'm going to drag it somewhere on the left. So I know that, okay, that one is not congruent. So triangle DLT not congruent. Now let's look at triangle ENO, this one right here. To check if it's congruent, I can see if I can transform it onto triangle ABC. So if I translate it over, I'll line up point E with point A, do a little bit of a rotation by clicking this blue point here so I can line up the red sides. And after I do that, I can see that the 2 triangles land on each other perfectly. So I know that triangle ENO is congruent to triangle ABC. I'll move it over here to the right where I'll put all of my congruent triangles. Okay, now that I know that triangle ENO is congruent, I can go back to my worksheet right here for problem number 2. And I know that, okay, ENO is congruent. DLT, we concluded that that wasn't congruent. So I'll write down triangle ENO is congruent to triangle ABC. And then I'll repeat this process for the remaining 4 triangles and determine which ones are congruent and write it down here. Okay, let's look at one more example. Now let's move on to page 3. In page 3, each of these triangles have 2 angles that match with ABC and 1 side that matches with ABC. So I'm just going to move them around first so I can keep it organized. I'm going to have all the triangles that are congruent on the right side and all the triangles that are not congruent on the left side. So let's start with this triangle right here, FQP. So I'm going to see if I can transform it onto triangle ABC to see if it's congruent. So I know that I'll want this blue angle F to line up with this blue angle A. So I'll click and drag the side so that those 2 points line up. And then I know I need a rotation, so I'm going to click on this blue point so I can rotate it. And after I rotate it, I can see that it lines up perfectly with triangle ABC. So I know that this triangle is congruent to ABC. So I'll move it over here to the right. Okay, and then I can fill out the first part of the question on the worksheet. So we concluded that FQP is congruent to ABC. So I can say that's triangle FQP is congruent to triangle ACB. And then I'm going to continue that process for the remaining triangles. I'm going to look at this part now, where it says, of the triangles that are congruent, what criteria do they share with triangle ABC? Well, looking at this example for FQP, FQP has this angle that was congruent to A, and I know it had this side that was congruent to that side there, and then it also had this angle that was congruent to this angle here. And then if I look at my triangle criteria possibilities from the first page, I know that if I have an angle and then this touching side and another angle like that, this is 2 angles and an included side. 2 angles that are both touching this side. That's the criteria. And that's the criteria that triangle FQP shares with triangle ABC. So I can say here, what criteria does it have? It shares 2 angles and an included side, a side that touches both of the angles. So that's what it means when it says what criteria. And so with those examples, I'm going to leave the rest of it to you to complete on your own. And I will say goodbye and good luck.